Hey, everybody, welcome to Cars with Cocktails, a show where we join two things that go perfectly together, drinking and driving. Today, joined by my co-host, Charles, a.k.a. The Humble Mechanic, as always, and also Rich from Rich Rebuilds.
How are you guys?
How you doing, Rich?
So is this is probably legit then to be drinking and driving if the car is driving for you? Like, that's an okay thing, right?
You know, that's one of the most common things that people ask to see if they can get away with being intoxicated while operating a motor vehicle. And I think the fine print says, even though you're still in it, you're still operating it because you're the pilot, even though you're not turning the wheel. So yeah. It is.
Take what I said with a grain of salt. That shit is not okay.
Well, I guess technically we haven't reached the level of autonomy that allows for you to technically not drive at all, right? Anyway,
right.
What is that, level 5? Is that what they call that?
I forget what it is, but I'm pretty sure there's still going to be rules and regulations around whether or not people can be intoxicated, even in the car at all. Because even when you're not drunk, you still can't have an open container.
In the car, right? Well, I think that depends on state. I think some states are pretty fucking wild, and they allow some really crazy shit. So
could you imagine just like
they had some drive-through shit in Arizona, man.
Like imagine just driving your car and like every passenger you have is just pounding back beer after beer.
It seems
like the party bus.
Yeah.
Yeah. I assume there's rules. Maybe people will get in their back seat. They'll get super drunk and just get in the back seat. Let the car drive.
Yeah, maybe. There was a video that I saw today of a guy that was bragging about how his car is driving him to brunch, and he got out of the driver's seat, sat in the passenger seat, and then just recorded the Tesla driving itself like on the highway in the fast lane.
Yikes!
I'm like, these are the kind of things that ruin it for everyone else. And it was wild, man. The lengths that people will go to just to quote unquote flex, you know, on social media is crazy. It's like, guys, we get it. The car can drive itself. You don't have to, there's really nothing to prove here anymore, you know? Right.
Yeah. It's interesting as we go more into that, how much of that's going to happen, because I guess, you know, I've never been in an autopilot car completely, but it's capable of a lot, but not completely everything, correct?
No, that's correct. It can do a lot of things, and every day it just gets smarter and smarter. The one that blew my mind the most was the detecting of red lights and stoplights.
Okay, yeah,
that's pretty cool. Because I would wonder, like, that was I found that. I mean, I thought it would be a very difficult function to implement, because it's like, how does the car know, like, where the lights are? There's many different configurations of lights. There's also the light conditions at the daytime, nighttime. Half the time,
glare coming off the sunrise and stuff like that, whatever.
Right, and then what if? Because half the time, remember those stoplights that they have? They're not LED, but they're that weird holographic one.
Yep.
It's almost like an old school rear projection TV.
And you have to look at it at the direct right angle, or you don't see it at all.
Absolutely, yes. That's the one where if you look at it from this angle, you see nothing. But if you see this, it's like full on green. So like, I've always wondered how it would detect those. It probably doesn't. I don't really know. But I think one of the most interesting things I've seen so far is the detection of stoplights is pretty cool.
That's pretty wild. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all camera based, right? But you would figure at some point it's going to have some holes in its game.
Right. Yeah, no, it's amazing, man. It's really, the technology has come so far, but I will tell you that it's a fantastic car for a daily driver. If you actually enjoy driving and like piloting a vehicle, it's not the car for you.
Yeah. So obviously you kind of have an interesting background. You and I don't know each other well. You and Charles do know each other a little bit. I know you're a car guy from the fact that you have a Z06, a C6, right? Is that right?
C6C, yeah.
Obviously that's a car that is very, I would say raw, probably would be the best way to describe it. I mean, I remember driving a Z06 C6 for the first time, and I was like, wow, this car is fast and very, very raw. Nothing.
It's like a punch in the face. It's like,
100%. Yeah. But then you obviously are most known for your Tesla side.
Right.
How do you square all that? I mean, obviously, I know you've gone into different things. You're now moving on to different cars. Is that?
No.
I mean, EV is your business too, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yes. So I have a business called Electrified Garage that services and repairs electric vehicles. And we're opening actually a second location in Florida, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
And thank you.
That's super
Thank
cool.
you,
Dude,
thank you.
congrats on that, by the way.
Where in Florida are you opening?
Ocala.
Oh, cool.
Ocala, Florida. So we...
Is that close to Tallahassee by any chance?
Yeah.
Sorry, side project. One question before you go deep on the electric cars.
Yeah.
Are you still rocking the RS7 or has that went away?
Damn right. Still got it, baby.
My man. I love it.
Are you driving it? I never knew. Did you actually fix it and finalize everything?
Yeah. So I fixed it, finalized it, did all the the turbo oil screen replacement.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to get too hard into things before I started, taking it to the track and beating it up and stuff. So I did that, a lot of maintenance kind of stuff, just kind of squared the car away before I drive. You know, the typical maintenance stuff, you guys know. Brakes, rotors, oil change, coolant flush, turbo oil screen failure type stuff.
Timing chains, all the things, turbos leaking.
Yeah, spark plugs. You know, it's definitely a learning curve coming from, because I went directly from working on Teslas almost immediately to the RS7. And when I tell you, I've never even touched an Audi before getting the RS7.
Nice.
And learning that the car has literally hundreds of sensors blew my mind. I've never known a car to have so many sensors in my life.
That seems so counterintuitive from what you would expect versus an electric car where you would think that thing would be censored to the max. Also, welcome to a level of and theory of engineering where everything has a reason and everything is done for a very specific reason.
Right.
Also done the hardest possible way that you could possibly do something.
And I learned that the hard way when I was doing the spark plugs and I was removing the coils, and I'm like, I have to do a lot to get out of it. This seems like a bit much.
Yeah.
And in a video, I compared it to doing work on my Z06 where I literally disconnect the connector, pull the coil, and take out a spark plug, and everything is right there. It would take no more than, maybe 15 minutes to remove all 8 spark plugs.
Wow.
But the RS7, it's like, all right, let's think about this for a second. You know what I mean? It's a huge deal. But the Tesla stuff, going from that to the RS7, I would have thought that you're right, Charles, that there would be way more sensors in the Tesla, right? But then I realized, wait a second, the Tesla isn't really a luxury car.
Right.
Meaning the RS7, it has, various zones for heat. I think I saw a sensor in the rear duct. There's a rear B-pillar duct.
For flow.
And there was a sensor in there. And I'm like, oh, okay, wow, another surprise sensor. In the Teslas, they don't have B-pillar cooling at all.
Paul, I think you should make that as a shirt, by the way. Oh, surprise sensor.
Yeah. I'm like, okay. But there's just sensors everywhere. I think there's a particulate sensor in the front too that senses pollution, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not uncommon. It's mostly for the HVAC system for filtering and stuff like that. Yeah.
So there's that one thing I wasn't used to there. I mean, but that's when things went haywire. On an electric motor, all you have is a battery and you have a motor and you have a controller. Are things getting too hot? Okay, cool it down. That's it. But it's just interesting seeing all the sensors, vacuum lines, just everything in the Audi because, again, the Z06, like you said, is so raw, but it's an incredibly simple car. I mean, General Motors hasn't changed the design of a V8, an LS motor they've never changed it.
It's been basically the same forever with just slight improvements over and over again.
Yeah, it's still the same push rod V8 they've been using in literally trucks.
Right.
So those are some of the differences there, but I do love both. Back to my last point, it's never the Tesla's was never a driver's car. Like if you enjoy driving, if you enjoy taking tight, twisty turns, and you enjoy shifting, rev matching, hearing the exhaust, pop, burble, and bang. If that's your thing on like nice, twisty, winding roads, then the Tesla, it tries to replicate that as much as you can because it's a very fast car. Exit speeds are awesome because there's so much torque just kind of blasting off of the line. But in terms of like overall like emotion and feedback, it's not the car for you.
I think that's something that a lot of newer cars lack to begin with. Look at I'm sitting here, I'm looking at a Miata, which is about as plain of a vehicle as you could get. I'm looking at a completely disassembled R32, so that one doesn't count. But then comparing that to my Golf R, which is nothing amazing to write home about it as far as modern vehicles go. But there's just kind of like almost this, and it sounds super negative, and I don't necessarily mean it that way. I love the car. It's amazing. It's fast. It's fun to drive, but it's kind of dead feeling compared to, the world's coolest racist car. Did I just call the Miata a racist car? I definitely did not mean to call the Miata a racist car. Raciest car. Probably don't mean to call it that either. What the hell am I trying to say? I don't know. I didn't even pregame. So
yeah.
What happens, I get nervous when drinks are like, so this is all alcohol. There's no anything in this.
Is that ice or is that like, what are those, like lemons?
Yes. So it's an ice with that's an orange wedge. I don't know if it counts as an official orange wedge because it is a wedge from a clementine. But that's all I had. So that's what you get. So there's a point to that I was going on and I don't recall what it was. So let's move this trolley along.
Yeah. So we're drinking Negronis for those at home. And I don't know if you've ever had a Negroni. I saw it. We tried it. This alcohol, some Italian alcohol called Campari. It's how would you describe this drink, Charles?
So the drink is weird. It's not bad.
It's not good though.
It's not good. It has, what? This is like an old man drink. I feel like you're just like a 70-year-old man and you want to just get fucked up
in Italy and you got a
in
Speedo
Italy. Yeah, totally. Like picture that stereotypical old 80-year-old Italian dude. The Campari smells like I don't even know how to describe it. The sweet vermouth smells like bad wine, but I'm surely no one to like really bad red wine, or really good red wine. I'll be honest, I wouldn't know the difference anyway.
It's like cheese. It smells terrible. It must be good.
Yeah. Except I don't know. Like I'm a little heartbroken about how this drink tastes compared to how expensive that bottle of Campari was, because that shit was like $36.
Yeah, I agree. It's not good. It's a super big letdown, and that stuff is shit. Okay, moving on. I think the EV stuff. So you're doing stuff. Are you guys getting into performance out of EV stuff?
Yeah, so we were in that. We primarily Teslas, because right now Teslas are like the car to have. So that's our MO. Mm-hmm. We've been doing a couple of things, working with a few other companies to bring some performance upgrades to the Teslas. Mostly like acceleration boosts, just sending more power to the motor.
Software, I assume, right?
It's all software stuff, and it's you kind of lose the sense for fun of installing parts,
right?
When it's all like from your phone or from a laptop and stuff. And basically it's downloading horsepower,
right?
That's literally what it is. And there's a lot to be said about getting under an old car, putting up on jack stands, wrestling with the exhaust, spraying everything down to loosen all the bolts and nuts, getting a new exhaust on after 12 hours, having all like the rocks and debris in your eyes, and then going to the dyno and then gaining like 9 horsepower, Yeah. Now it's like, you kind of select your package to say, hey, what level do you want? Do you want 0 to 60 in whatever seconds? And then, okay, pay us $5,000. And in a lot of the cases, the bang for your buck on an EV is higher than a gas car because, literally downloading horsepower for I think on a Tesla, you could get an acceleration boost that's worth another half a second, 0 to 60.
Wow.
Which is
strong.
Which is strong because, think about how much you would have to spend to get 0 to 60 on a half a second quicker on a regular car. I mean, good luck doing it for $2,000.
Depends on the car. In our world, the forced induction cars, because there are a lot of VW and Audi stuff's forced.
Oh yeah. It's a lot easier.
Yeah, exactly. You get that opportunity of just the software to make power. Your RS7 is a perfect example. I think software on that's 200 horsepower for
exactly
regular tune.
So no boost out. Yeah, it's forced induction saves lives, man. I'm telling you, because on the Z, it's naturally aspirated, and you have to spend a ridiculous amount of money to make a naturally aspirated car significantly quicker.
Right.
Yep.
It's like, oh, okay, well, you do an exhaust. Like, it all adds up. You do an exhaust, you do a tune, you do a new cam, you do heads, and it's just like you're looking at, before you know it, you're spending $10,000 already.
Right.
Yeah, those are high dollar parts and deep engine work. It's not just boop boop beep boop boop boop. So I have a question on that, on the downloading horsepower thing. I mean, obviously there's limiting factors, and when you think of a traditional gas car, one of the main limiting factors tends to be fueling. Mm-hmm. So when you take sort of that mindset of, okay, we're gonna modify this Tesla.
Yeah.
Obviously we want to get as much out of it as we can, but we still want the car to not explode or whatever happens to them. What's the limiting factor then when you look at modifying EV with software?
A lot of the times it's based on what the motor could handle. Motors have capacities, and also how much power the batteries could produce. How much power the batteries can send to the motor as well, because when you draw a lot of energy from batteries, they tend to heat up.
Yeah, so heat becomes a problem, right?
And heat's a big issue. So you want to make sure you don't draw that too fast. Our batteries could heat up and then bad things could happen. Another thing too is cooling is a big thing. You want to make sure you have the right cooling. And in the early Teslas, I used to have a 2012 car, and the radiators on those cars are about the size of like a cell phone. Obviously,
wow, really?
But probably, I would say probably three cell phones across, I would say. They're pretty small. And, cooling, it was never really a thing. So when you were to take a Tesla Model S from the track, it would overheat super quickly. Charles, you still there? I can see her.
Yeah, I had a bad internet connection for a minute, but I think I'm back in action. I actually heard all of what you said, which is pretty cool. And so the kind of the reason that I what I'm getting to with that question and modifying cars and modifying EV cars is, it seems to me the easy modifications from a mental exercise anyway, I won't necessarily say from the nuts and bolts, are bigger, higher capacity battery, bigger motor.
Yeah.
But what about some of like the ancillary things like cabling or cooling modules that perhaps level up what the factory battery is capable of? I mean, obviously you have a finite amount of storage, right? It's just like a gas tank. You have a finite amount of storage. And if you open the floodgates up on a battery discharge or a fuel system, you might, you go from having 10 runs down the quarter-mile track to 1. Right. But that may be another like little place to gain some, or maybe not gain any, but allow you to safely push the capacity of the car.
Here's the problem with modifying EVs in a lot of senses is that the hot car to have right now is the Tesla Model 3.
You mean it's not the ID4 Volkswagen? Come on, dude.
Shockingly, it's not. No. The hot car everyone wants right now is the Model 3 because it's the cheapest one. It has the most. It's more advanced technologically than the older S's and X's were. Even now, it's a completely different platform than the S and X, and that's the car everyone wants to have in mod. However, fun fact is that a lot of the owners still have the warranty, and Tesla has such strong control over all the cars. They know when they've been modified
Right.
And they
So
could
immediately void all your shit. Yeah.
And they could like remotely be like, hey, sorry, this isn't going to work for us. So
and this is not just like, okay, your warranty's void, so if you have a problem, fuck off. This is like all that free charging that you got. Nope, not anymore. Which you,
yeah, they could literally, they could, and I don't think, I mean, as far as I know, I don't think in recent history any manufacturer has had that kind of control. You know, usually with Audis, you can tell if the car's been tinkered with. You could go, you know, they pull the logs from like whatever the ECU, and they're just like, hey, you have a stage tune on here, kick rocks.
Right.
Yep.
You know, whereas Tesla, it's like they could look at their phones and remotely and say, well, for some reason, there's a lot more power going to this guy's motor. He didn't pay through us for a software upgrade through us, and his car is not the performance version. Something's going on here. Right. They could flag you, no problem. Before you even set foot into the service center, they have the logs, and they're just like, wait till this guy gets in.
And so in that circumstance, what are they doing? They're voiding warranties, or are they actually taking action and doing live updates to cars?
Well, they're doing two things. They are voiding warranties, yes. In terms of live actions, that's kind of like a pretty big like liability for them.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah.
If they were to pull it and the car explodes, it's like, haha, sorry about that.
Yeah.
So what they've been doing is they've been sending little notes to people saying, hey, we've kind of detected something odd with your car. You know, we're not really sure if you have any performance modifications on this, but just a casual reminder if you do. You know, so
fuck you if you do. You are
right,
fucked. I'm just picturing like a Newman. That's not what his name was in Jurassic Park, but I can't remember what his name is. Where it's like, you didn't say the magic word.
You didn't say please and open your checkbook. But no, it's something else. I've never seen. I don't think you guys have really seen it either. Just how much control a manufacturer has over a car, because we're used to tuning stuff, doing cool stuff, you know, adding boost, you know, getting a catless downpipe or whatever, but they literally know everything that's all software based every step of the way. I
think everybody's going that direction. You know, I know for a fact that some other manufacturers are heading that direction. Mm-hmm. I know Honda for a fact is moving towards CAN bus module systems, which they never did before, because obviously they keep things as simple as possible for reliability stuff. Yeah. And they're doing it with the intent of over-the-air updates. And I think Tesla has set a precedent that is consumer-based. You know, like consumers don't want to have to go to a dealer. They hate that shit. They don't want to do it. It's more convenient to just get live air updates. And so Tesla has set that expectation for people. And now every manufacturer is kind of falling in line with that. And but obviously with that expectation comes control too, right? Right.
And this is the big thing for I've been fighting for a while, right to repair. We're going to get to the point where, you know, I know it's always been a cat and mouse game with tuners. You know, how do we tweak the cars and make them faster? When you make the car primarily software based, it makes it more difficult for, I guess, us enthusiasts. And then B, more challenging for people that repair and service the cars too.
Yeah, no question.
Because, you know, if you have to go in there and, you know, you have let's just say you have like an Audi S6, and instead of going to the dealership, which might be located, you know, a couple 100 miles away, whatever, what you have to do is you have to.
Start picking her up. That was awesome.
I love it.
So hold on one second.
That was amazing, by the way.
Yeah, I
love
that. So, you know, you have to think to yourself, okay, you bring the car in for service, and they say, well, you know, we don't have the tools to diagnose this, so you only have one choice, but to go to the dealership and then be raked through the coals for at whatever the labor rate is. Because we want to do that same thing here. Before I opened the garage, that was a big issue for Tesla service, because right now Tesla service is $190 an hour.
Wow. In all areas across the board?
In the New England area, it's 190. In Florida, where we're going to, it's 170.
I have to say, though, compared to just dealer prices, especially here where, I mean, I'm not in any kind of super high-end area, dealer straight door rate at VW is like 155. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's not, you know, we have this expectation, this ideal, I do anyway, that like a Tesla service is going to be $300 an hour. Right. But that's clearly not it at all. And, you know, we're experiencing that right to repair issue now. Even in the lower car brands, you buy a damn amplifier or a radio for a new VW. If the independent shop doesn't have factory Volkswagen software or factory Audi software, they can't do anything with it. You could put it in, but you're going to cause more work for whoever's got to program it, because they're going to have to take and put the old one back in and then run the test and call the mothership and get the information from the mothership. And that's only going to get worse. Mm-hmm. Or worse might not be the right word, but it's only going to become more of a common thing. I mean, it is dumb shit too. Like, put a compass module in. Oh, got to call the mothership and get the mothership software put in it. And as far as over the air updates and information, like, I think people think that that's like, it's only Tesla, it's futuristic, I don't have to worry about that on my car, or they say things like, I'm never going to buy a new car, which is fine. But look, on newer stuff, and I say Volkswagen a lot because that's just the universe that I live in, and Paul as well, they already send my Golf I didn't pay for the subscription because I'm sure as hell not going to pay for this, but they would send a weekly report of any issues with my car to the service manager of the dealership that I bought it from. Like, here you go, boss man. He's my old boss. That's why I call him boss man. Here you go, boss man. Like, this is all the shit Charles did to his car this week.
That's what's wild, man. I don't think and their biggest thing is privacy. So right. the anti right to repair people are, you gotta, man, you got to see, they have this advertising campaign that if you are if you are against right to repair, if you're for right to repair, you are supporting rapists.
Oh, okay.
Meaning,
how do we make that damn connection? Jesus.
So here's the jump. For spouses that are trying to, let's just say a man got divorced from his wife, right? And he's trying to keep tabs on her to find out where she is.
Him having access to her car information is
and having access to her car information, and AKA the location as well.
Get the fuck out of here.
And he could abuse her. The second thing are if independent indie repair shops. I got to send you this video. It's going to blow you.
Yeah, dude. I'm already like, that is such a far jump, because like legit, this little tracker that we all have on our person all the time, every day, and it's always on, like, if you're not worried about this thing, the shit that your car knows is irrelevant.
Well, also, you could attach something to someone's car if you're a fucking lunatic. You know, like,
have we not seen old Spider-Man cartoons? I mean, gee, come on.
Yeah. So what is it? Who does this video come from? It came from Vice or something?
It comes from it's the article is written by Vice, but
oh god, I don't know how I nailed it, but
it's good, and it's an auto industry campaign. It's like the Automotive Coalition.
Yeah, so it's the dealer association that's putting this bullshit propaganda out, I'm sure.
Oh, I see.
Correct. Yeah. And they know it's garbage too. What they did was they released the video, and they turned the comments off.
Yeah, well, that's the move, right? Is
the ultimate chicken shit move.
Yeah.
It's the biggest chicken shit move ever. Hold on, I think what did they do?
Well, I think they're facing some weird, it's funny. Charles and I spent most of our time in the dealer industry, and I think Tesla's created a dynamic where they're getting a lot of market pressure because they're going direct to consumer, And as the expectation of people continues to go through direct-to-consumer purchasing from the manufacturer, people are going to want less and less dealing with dealerships, because the process of buying a car sucks balls. Nobody likes it. And so people are going to be like, if I could just pay them and not have to deal with all this horse shit, they're going to be happy to do that. Or at least some segment of people will be.
Right. I just dropped you in the chat the video. All right. Let me get my laptop charger. Hold on.
Yeah, that is some shit, and Paul, I don't know if you and I had talked about this, but with the release of the ID4 from Volkswagen, I watched the release and whatever, and you could buy it online. And of course, in true fashion, the link didn't work for about 6 hours to build your ID4 and order it. Well,
and then they sold them out and you couldn't buy them anymore.
Yeah. Then you're like, nah, sorry, they're too awesome. Yeah. So I thought it was actually a really cool thing. Like, they said that this was the first time you could order a car online from VW, but I swear that in like the early 2000s, the Beatles, this is like some sort of weird Volkswagen lore, I'm sure. You could special order a car online. I mean, you still like had to go to the dealership and everything to buy it, but I swear you could. Not really the point of the story. So the dealer group that I know of, I'll say, they would not work with Volkswagen on the release of this new car. What Volkswagen required of dealerships to be able to sell the ID4 in the first online release was to allow them to have a similar direct-to-consumer model as Tesla does, where you pay for the car online, everything happens online, you just go to the dealership and get your car.
You basically receive delivery. So basically, well, and to be fair from their perspective, which I think is dumb, because they're just piggybacking off of the manufactured brands and they don't have their own, but they're afraid, and they know the steps that are coming, is that this is like 2 steps removed from going direct to consumer.
Absolutely. So this dealer group, they refused to participate because Volkswagen wanted them to change their dealer agreement, and this company changes their dealer agreement for no one. Right. Like, there isn't a car manufacturer that they will change their dealership agreement for, which I actually have a lot of respect for them in that capacity. In a way, I think it's outdated, but they have a ton of dealerships they got to look out for too. So if I wanted to buy an ID4, I could not buy it from the dealership that I would want to buy it from. I would have to buy it from a competitor, a competing dealership. And well, I mean, I'm not buying one anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant, but it's crazy. Like, you have this bit of old school mentality that the dealer association is the way you buy a car, and nothing is going to change that. And I respect it, but in a lot of ways, man, they're going to get left behind, and people are going to just buy shit from somewhere else that they can do the model where I can just go boop, boop, beep, boop, or I want a new car, boop, boop, beep, boop. Okay, it'll be here in 2 weeks. Awesome. I don't have to do shit. I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, dealers are going to be faced with the problem that I think any business is faced with, and obviously, Rich, now that you do EV stuff and you're doing repair stuff, you're faced with, although you kind of worked into it the backwards way, which is you had a huge brand first, then you backed into the business side. But is dealerships have no brand. They're non-existent. The logo on their fucking building is their brand, but that means dick to them, because there's 9 other logos in their city that look just like them.
What makes them special? There's no reason to go there. They don't have a presence.
Right. Good, because they're irrelevant. They don't give a shit about customers. They're extracting as many dollars as they can, and they're not giving anything back. And that's the reality of those businesses as a business. Now, fine, it is what it is now, but the reality is long-term net, that's going to become a loss. It's just a matter of when it plays out, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a challenge that every business is going to be faced with. And the Tesla has created a dynamic that makes that unavoidable, I think. I don't know how manufacturers are not going to be able to at least somehow address that directly, because the expectation is going to become easier and easier and easier buying Teslas, and it's just going to get worse with buying cars from dealers.
Is that possible? Is it is there a possibility that it could be worse to buy a car from a dealer? But it's all levels too. It's not just the new car market. Look at how well Carvana's doing. You go online, you do exactly the same thing. You say, I want that one. I did a little bit of research on Carvana a couple of years ago, and I'll tell you, this is by no means a plug for Carvana. Buy it there, don't buy it there. I don't give a shit. But they do an incredible job of documenting like, hey, this car has a little scratch on the fender. Are you cool with that? No? Yeah. Well, don't buy this one then. Buy another one. And then you hit go and the little truck comes and there's your car. If you don't like it, we'll come back and get it.
I've seen those Carvana cars. That's actually kind of neat. The little trucks have like
cool.
All the little aerodynamics on them to make sure that they cut through the wind. No, those
are
bug
guts,
cool.
Man. You can't have bug guts on that new delivery car.
I certainly have seen good experiences from feedback for the most part from Carvana. Actually, to me, that's an interesting segue into your whole experience with buying that used Tesla. Was it Model X?
X, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep,
so
correct.
I thought it was really interesting because the timing of you doing that, I don't follow your stuff super closely, but I remember very close timing of you talking about that like a couple weeks beforehand. Mm-hmm. A close friend of mine is, I'm from Jersey originally. That's where I grew up. He was a sales manager in the Northeast Jersey area. And he was telling me about something, and he was thinking about buying a Tesla. He was telling me something. He's like, man, all these Teslas I keep seeing on Tesla's site look like Mannheim pictures. And for the average viewer who's not familiar, Mannheim is I think it's the largest auto auction in the US.
Yeah.
And they're massive. They have auto auctions all over the place. And their biggest ones, I think, are Pennsylvania is going to be one of the biggest ones I know of. But they have them a bunch in like New York. I'm sure they're all over the place. Anyway,
almost every state has one, I think, at this point. Yeah.
Right. And that was so weird because obviously the timing of you posting all the problems you had around that, to me, that was fucking crazy because I immediately, once he mentioned it to me, I saw what was happening, was so fascinating because it was Tesla. I could see what was either it was an effort to prop up used car value. I don't know what it was. Mm-hmm. I suspect it was an effort to prop up used car value because they're basically trying to prevent, because people aren't like chomping at the bit to buy used Teslas, especially if they're not certified in some way.
Right.
So they were guaranteeing them and propping them up, but they hadn't reconned them at all.
Exactly.
And so for anybody who is in the used car, ever been in around used cars, that's fucking crazy. Like the idea of taking cars from auto auctions, listing them online, like somebody might have taken a shit in the back seat and you're fucking sending that car to a customer.
Not only that, but they also don't have the titles for them either.
It's wild.
I mean, it's what, so in that video, at that time, I used that video, I had friends that worked at Tesla, mm-hmm. and they've never seen quite the frenzy internally that video caused them.
Oh, really?
No kidding.
It literally exposed a lot.
Everything, right? Yeah.
Everything. Because no one really, I mean,
no one understands the high view of how all this shit comes together. And that video kind of pulled it all together.
And it shows, okay, this is how you get your Tesla. Usually what you'll see in a Tesla video, it's the average Tesla bashing video. It says, this sucks, my Tesla sucks, I'm so upset.
Yeah. You know, emotional, stupid, not very articulate, doesn't mean anything.
Right. So but I wanted to take the position where I would list every step of the way. Like, this is the correspondence. Mm-hmm. This is this. And actually, a couple people lost their jobs because of that video, too.
No shit.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Well, I mean, legit, that was a shit show. I mean, again, that's probably one of the few videos because when it happened was so close to when he and I had discussed it. And I was like, man, I can't believe they're listing Mannheim cars on fucking their website as certified Teslas. What the fuck are they doing?
And you know what's funny? Now, since that video dropped, they have stepped their game up because they know that was a huge egg on their face.
Right.
I think total over the series, I think 5 million people.
Wow. Yeah.
5 million views.
Yeah.
Nice.
And Tesla only made at that point maybe 400,000 cars.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think probably a lot of people didn't really necessarily pull it all together the same way, but man, that the idea of I was blown away about the balls that it takes to sell cars on your website that you've never seen, inspected, or reconned at all.
Like this, it was, imagine going to a website, right? Let's just say, Charles, you want to buy, like, I don't even know, like a Golf R, right? Shocking. You found a really good looking Golf R at a dealership, right? You look online, and the first thing you do is you look at photos because you want to waste your time.
Yep.
Right. You look
That's
at
what
photos.
I do. That's what I do all day.
And you look around, you're like, wait a second, this doesn't look like it's from a dealership. And like you look around and it looks like you're at a salvage yard because there's like a massive group of cars that are for sale. And like the car's next to an Infiniti, it's next to something else, it's next to a Range Rover. And the photos are so ambiguous and you can't really tell if there's damage on them or not. And
picture it looking like a series of photos from like a Copart listing or something like that.
Right.
And having seen just so many, like thousands of cars coming through various auction houses, and some are amazing and they're really, really high quality cars. But look, if it was that good of a car, speaking on other brands anyway, if it was that good of a car, whatever place took that in as a lease turn in or a dealer trade in, they would have reconned it at the dealership and would have retailed it there.
Right.
Most of the time, dealerships send the shit they don't want to deal with to the auction.
Right. Right. So what you're seeing at the auction, right, to your point, is here's cars. Now, there are exceptions to like Passat gets traded into a Toyota dealership. They don't want to fuck with it. Mm-hmm. They do only certified stuff, whatever. They don't want to sell it. They wholesale it. It's gone, right? That happens. But that's not most of the stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's the I don't want to say the unsellables, but a lot of the times it's cars that people don't really want. They've been sitting for a while, or better yet, high mileage cars too.
Yep. Right. So Rich, do you know if these Teslas that were just being like the photos just taking off Mannheim's auction site and putting right at the dealer, were these traded in through a Tesla or a store, or were these just like Bill's Toyota guy wanted a Camry instead of a Model S or whatever?
These cars are sold through Tesla, so I think these are trade-ins for the most part.
You think they were trade-ins?
Yeah, I think mostly true because the ones that are sold through Tesla's site, the used cars, Tesla doesn't maintain an inventory of used cars because they built all their cars to order.
I see. So they made a deal with Mannheim to take all their trade-ins.
Bingo.
And then they would.
Interesting.
Part of the deal was they would offer them for sale, but if they sold first at auction, great. But if they didn't, we'll sell them on our site and someone will buy them.
Well, if you think about it, Tesla doesn't have. If you've driven past a Tesla location, they don't have the real estate to house used cars.
Right.
They also don't have the resources or the infrastructure to massively sell on that kind of scale.
Right. So and their sales departments probably aren't even set up that way, right? Because it's just like
their sales, they make their money on new cars.
Right. And there's no negotiation tactic or whatever. It's just like the price of the price. You buy it, yes or no. You want it, cool, whatever. Yeah.
And they know it too. They know they have the market by the short and curlies, as they say, because everyone wants a Tesla. And the way it was worded to me was like, listen, do you want it or not? Because someone else is going to buy it.
Yep. Do you think Tesla may shift their mentality a little bit as more companies with a bigger reach and bigger grip on the automotive industry start to produce at scale EVs? Because VW did like the e-Golf, which was cool, but they had it for sale in like 3 small regions. So US wide, it wasn't a thing, but their big push is we're going to do all EV, and they're not the only ones. Like most manufacturers, I think, are looking to that either because they want to, sell cars in California in 2035 or whatever the hell crazy shit that was.
So stupid.
Or they see that that's, kind of, I want to say like the flavor of the day. This may be a long-term thing. I obviously none of us really know exactly what's going to happen, but it'd be interesting to get your take on how you think Tesla is going to move their puzzle pieces in relation to the other companies.
They're going to have to. If you think about it, you got to remember they're still relatively new in the game. They built their first car in, what was it, 2008? I want to say.
Was that was like the Roadster or something like that?
That was the Roadster that they borrowed off the Lotus Elise, pretty much, and they did that. So they're still pretty newish, you know.
And those were a super low production, weren't they?
Very low production, yeah. Very low production. They stopped making them very quickly, and you know they're just kind of floating around. But they still sell for like 60, 70, 80 grand.
Oh wow, really?
No kidding.
Yeah, Tesla. It's the original Roadsters are very expensive, so they have no choice but to step their game up. Because remember, how does it say? Competition conditions.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, when there's competition out there, they're going to have to step their game up. Because right now, out of left field, Porsche came out with the Taycan. And the Taycan is one of the few formidable Tesla competitors out there. The only problem is it's ridiculously expensive.
And the range issue, right?
The range issue, and it doesn't have the same tech, but it's a competitive regardless. It's a high-end luxury electric vehicle.
My and I've never driven one, but my impression from what I've seen is it's a better overall performing car, but it still struggles with the range issue. And I know how that is because
so it's a typical Porsche, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's no matter how you slice it, it's still taking sales from Tesla.
No question, has to, right?
So either way, that they're not going to like that. Matter of fact, Bill Gates bought one.
Oh, really?
Bill Gates bought one over a Tesla, and Elon Musk responded and said, "I've always found the conversations between Bill Gates and I underwhelming."
Oh, Jesus.
Of course that's what he said.
Wow. Yeah. All those flavors, and he chose salty.
Salty. That's right. Yeah, that's right. So it goes to show you that it's the thing. And, like, you know, it's expensive. I don't really know how many sales it's stealing, because I don't know how many people are in the market to buy $140,000.
Yeah, I say, what are they, 150 grand?
Yeah, about that. I think they start at 100. And if you want like seats and an interior, you're already at one. So, but I mean, this sounds weird, but I think the Tesla has the Porsche beat in terms of technology. It has it beat in terms of overall range, and it has the car beat in terms of a supercharging network. Because right now you can drive anywhere in the U.S. for free. Well, not free, but for a low price on the Tesla charging network. And given the three of those things, and even the Teslas are even, you know, cheaper too. Given the three of those things, I'd probably still take the Taycan over the Porsche.
Oh, really?
Over the Tesla. Yeah.
So you've driven Taycans, right?
Yeah, I would. And I think the reason why I would do it over the Tesla is for my own selfish and ignorant reasons. Most people wouldn't choose it over this, but I enjoy the driving experience of the Taycan better. I enjoy the fit and finish of the Taycan better. And I enjoy driving the Taycan because it's not a Tesla.
Yeah, right? That was the one thing about Model S, is that I always felt like every time I got in one, it's like, okay, this car is not a nice car.
Right.
But it's also not that nice of a car.
Right, because if you spend 80 grand, if you spend 75,000 on a Tesla Model S, it looks the exact same on the inside as the $160,000 Model S.
Wow, I didn't realize Model S.
That's some General Motors shit right there, man.
Yeah,
they don't. There's no interior. There's no differences in interior, really. You only have a few options. Do you want white seats or do you want black seats?
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, do you want wood grain interior or do you want recycled whatever, carbon fiber or vegan leather? There's not many. They keep it.
Please tell me that vegan leather is a real thing.
Oh, it's a thing. Yeah.
No, it is. It is a thing. So now,
that's amazing.
So now they keep the options relatively simple to cut down on cost, which I understand. But you could have two Teslas side by side, $75,000 on one, $160,000 on one, and the only difference you'll see visually is the different wheels.
Wheels and a badge, basically.
Wheels, badge, maybe a carbon fiber spoiler. But nowadays you go on Amazon and buy a spoiler for like $69 anyway. So I like the Taycan because it's different. It has it has a different presence to it. And I see, so like in my neighborhood alone, there's probably three of them now, three Teslas now.
Right.
And it's like having a Taycan. I like cars that are a little bit different. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'd rather have something that represents me more and not wanting to fit in everyone else than a Tesla. So that personal reasons. That's all.
Yeah, that's cool. So when do you get into? Oh, I guess you know what, I actually want to hear this. On the repair side of EV, you know, he and I obviously are very, I guess, insulated from EV stuff enough that we don't really know. What are common failures you see on EV stuff?
The most common failures you see are pretty much the same things that you'd see on a gas car surrounding the engine, because the EVs and gas cars are effectively the same. The only difference is the method of propulsion that they use to move the car forward. So instead of a gas tank, spark plugs, etc., you know, you'll have a battery, you know, motor and inverter. So when you bring in your car for service, if you notice this, the internal combustion engine has been around for so long, you're gonna laugh at this, but it's relatively as good as it's going to get in terms of reliability and efficiency for the millions of cars that are on the road. So when you usually bring your car in, a lot of the times it's not due to an engine issue, it's due to things around it, like air filters breathing, your exhaust is rotting off, you know, you didn't change your spark plugs. Usually everything from the heads inward, usually that runs for a while, you know, usually the transmission will fall off before that. So it's the same thing with an EV that, you know, the motors last a very long time, but there's things inside the motor like bearings that could wear down, you know, because it's still a unit that has a constant push and pull and lots of torque. So things could, weak links like axles are pretty tough. Bearings inside the motor. You have suspension components. Suspension components are big on these cars because even though they're the size of a Camry, they're
heavy. Yeah,
they weigh 1,000 pounds more.
Wow. Yeah, they're all about 5,000 pounds, right?
Yeah, 4,500 to 5,000 pounds. Yeah. Yeah.
So on some of those internal motor parts, is that something that's relatively easily serviceable, or is it like, oh, bearing's done, time for a new motor?
You're done. So if you have a Tesla and you have bearings inside the motor that go bad, it'll make a winding noise, like a really large, like almost like how do I explain it? I would attribute it to elevator service. You know, you have an elevator and you have the elevator service repair men and women that come in, and because the elevators are constantly going up and down, changing phases, changing directions, they need maintenance. It's the same thing like an electric car. After certain intervals, you have to, you know, lubricate certain parts, you know, to make it easier to last longer. The thing is that a lot of those parts are inside of the motor itself. They're considered as non-serviceable parts. So when you have a motor bearing issue inside of your Tesla, what you do is you bring it to Tesla, they replace the entire motor, and they send you on your way. What they do with that motor is they send it in for a reman.
Right.
Like they have the connections and all the parts and the bearings that they're not going to share with anyone, replace them, and then send them back to another customer that needs them.
You think it's only a matter of time before some of that repair information gets out and people are, you know, able to bring it to you guys, and then you'll be able to put some new outboard bearings on that motor or something like that, and save that customer $7,000 because they're out of warranty and have some bearing line?
Exactly. So we've been doing that. We actually found a lot of the bearing part numbers.
Nice.
But the thing is that people have been kind of living with it because it's only
because they get quoted like 15 grand to replace it, and then they're just like, well, fuck it, I guess I'm just dealing with this wine.
It only bothers me if I don't have to pay for it.
Well, what's starting to happen too is they're waiting it out because the price is slowly going down. Mm-hmm. Because as the technology advances more and more, that same drive motor went from, you know, 12 grand to 8 grand to like 6 grand, you know? So the other thing too is once that happens and, you know, things go wrong, and you get it and you get replaced and you're on your way again. A lot of people get turned away because Tesla built in almost like a standard point where this is the point where we're not going to go in for service, or we're not going to repair this vehicle. It's almost like a decibel meter they have, and say, you know what? I know that whining noise really annoys you, but according to this decibel meter, it's actually within spec of what the car should sound like.
Wow. So that's under warranty?
Yeah. So you have to, their defense is that electric vehicles, even though they don't have a lot of moving parts that the gas cars do, they still make quirky noises, and they do have sounds.
God, that sounds like the Audi oil burning stuff.
I was thinking that exact same thing, dude. That's exactly what I thought.
So a lot of my friends were turned away to say, hey, listen, I know this is annoying to you, but this is within spec. You have to be able to hear it within a certain distance. And that's like in their TSBs. Yep. In their TSBs, it says stand X amount of feet from the customer car, have them accelerate, have them do this, check for slop in the wheels, tighten everything down. And if it's below this point, send them on their way, and I'll see you in like 5,000 miles when it completely fails, or
when there's a hole in the motor case because the bearing exploded.
Right. So
that's pretty wild.
They're just like, just like everyone else.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's all manufacturers, right? They're always going to be doing what they can to avoid paying for a massive cost for a small, what it would be considered in their eyes, because they're not driving the car, a non-issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If it's your car, you don't consider it a non-issue, but if it's somebody else's car, it is a non-issue.
Right. I mean, if you think about it, like a bearing change for them, that's I mean, no one wants to do warranty work. No one wants to. No dealership wants to willingly give you, a part worth X amount when they can potentially push it off.
Well, the dealerships don't. Well, I take that back. So in the traditional dealer world, mm-hmm. they should actually be fine with it, because the
easiest sell you'll ever make. Is a warranty.
Because they get paid. So I don't know if you know how the structure works, but dealerships are all franchised. Mm-hmm. They get paid from the manufacturer to do warranty work. Usually the times are not awesome, but the work is guaranteed. It's paid for. You don't have to worry about selling work to a customer. There's obviously better work and less good work, as in any industry. I'm sure even in the EV industry, that's the case. Mm-hmm. You have gravy and then non. But warranty work, I would say, is usually not bad unless you're diagnosing water leaks.
Yeah. Unless you're the technician on the shit end of that stick.
I think Tesla's a little bit different, because your point being is that
they're the manufacturer direct, right?
Exactly. So let's just say, remember how Toyota was having the frame issues? I have a Tacoma. Yep. And they were having major frame issues, and the frame is manufactured by some company, and I don't even know, wherever it is, right? Let's just say Borg Warner. I know it's not, but
yeah.
Toyota could say, hey, Borg Warner, guess what? You guys have messed up. We need 100 frames ASAP, or we're taking your ass to court. And Borg Warner's like, okay, here you go. Has 10 frames. That's no sweat off of Toyota's back. They pay their tax, and it goes from there. I think Tesla, that manufactures those units and is also the distributor and dealer for the part.
They're the whole thing. There's nobody for it to fall back on.
Because the ecosystem's so closed, it's kind of on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. They've closed it completely, right? So that's how they go direct to consumers. They are everything as a manufacturer. Because I don't know this at all, but is Tesla, I know they're very heavily internally manufactured, but how much, is there a rough percentage of that?
I don't know the percentage, but they want to bring more and more things in-house. Right. Even parts, you name it. You can't even get third-party parts anywhere, like a aftermarket fender, bumper, headlight.
Forget it. Wow.
You can't get it?
They don't exist.
They don't exist. Why? Because they sue the shit out of anybody who does it?
A, that, and B, I guess people don't think their numbers are high enough to make it worth the margins to make stuff for.
That makes sense.
Even though there's a ton of cars on the road, I think they're over 1 million now. Wow. They probably made 1 million Camrys. in 2 weeks.
Tuesday.
Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, for sure, it's a small vehicle, and the variety of they made 1 million cars, but across a huge variety of models and year ranges and blah, 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 whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and they're not really ones to, I think companies know what happens when you cross Tesla's path. Yeah, I think they know. It's like, well, oh, you're making aftermarket taillights for Teslas? That's really cool. Let me just go into the software real quick and make sure that these taillights never work again for anyone. Because they have so much control over them. And a lot of people are kind of scared about working on EVs.
Right. Well,
like, what if I replace this part and the car blows up?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, I mean, that's for you. I guess that's probably the biggest business opportunity that you've had an opportunity to realize is that side of it. I mean, I'm sure when you went into this was just like a fuck off thing that you did to get a Model S, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had no. I mean, I was like, I'm not buying this shit. You crazy? I ain't buying this fucking thing. For $100,000, like I'm not spending that kind of money. So I put one together, and all of a sudden, hey, surprise! I own a business.
Yeah. Yeah. Welcome to the club. It's a wonderful stay. I hope you enjoy it.
Oh my! So tell me more about yourself.
Yeah. So I have a VW and Audi parts business, and then also I have a shop as well. So we have a small shop that we started a couple of years ago, kind of along the same lines as you, where it was more demand based than it was. I probably was going to own a shop at some point. I had a history. Charles and I have kind of a similar background, but when I was only a tech for about 3 years, and then I went a different direction, and so that's where our paths kind of diverged a little bit. But I stayed in the VW Audi world, so that's kind of why we so closely kind of mesh together, is because we're in that. So yeah, so we have a shop, and then we do a lot of content stuff too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
that's good stuff. And Charles, what do you do? Just kidding.
Yeah, this is you see it. I just take cars apart and then don't ever fucking put them back together. Is pretty much my MO.
So do you have Jason's Miata in there?
No, this is my Miata right here. My sweet ride.
Oh yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Turd of a Miata. Not nearly as glamorous as rebuilding a Tesla, but I put some new fenders on it, and
that's pretty sweet.
I didn't wash it ever, and I don't ever plan to really. It's getting some engine mounts now. It's a highly refined engine mounts. They're just bonded rubber. They're probably the shittiest engine mounts I've ever seen in a car.
You know what? You say that's not as glamorous as working on a Tesla. Any day of the week, I would work on a Miata.
Dude, let me tell you. So, I mean, you've dove into the Audi, so you understand like what it's like working on a German car.
Yeah.
My first mentor when I started at the dealership had this really like dark, fucked up saying of like what you were when you were a good VW tech. And I can't for the life of me remember it, but it's one of those things where I don't even know if I remembered it, if I would feel comfortable saying it in public. It was so fucked up and dark. So like, that's where like my compass points to. Shit's going to be hard. If it's not hard, you're doing it wrong. Cause if it's easy, like you fucked up somewhere along the lines. Then I get this thing. I'd never worked on a Miata before getting this car. I think I had driven one once, and I was like, all right, this is fun. And I opened the hood. I'm like, holy shit. Like, you can see all the shit. Like, all the shit's right here. Right. Okay, this is fucking with me. Surely it's not this easy. And then I did like 3 or 4 things. I'm like, what did I do with my life when I've spent my whole life working on these fucking German cars? Yeah. And then I get back to it. I'm like, okay, I have this sort of like desire for this level of punishment, I suppose.
Yeah, it's like the kidnapper and kidnappee.
Yeah,
like
you get
the slave and master.
What is that syndrome called? Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, Stockholm syndrome. Yeah.
So it's like you're so used to the abuse that you don't know anything else, and it's very rewarding working on a car. What year is it, the Miata?
It's a 99, so it's I guess the first year, the NB.
It's the later. It's the redesign, refresh.
Yeah, no pop-ups. No pop-ups.
Yep, refresh. It has the circular lights, but ovalish kind of lights. But I will say it's very rewarding working on a car that's a little bit more analog than a Tesla, because in a Tesla Model S, your success isn't determined by the parts you replace. It's determined by whether or not the software agrees with you.
That's a super interesting way to put that. I love that.
So when you work on your Miata, your success rate is based off of, did I assemble this correctly? Like, your success is based off of your own success. It doesn't depend on what the car thinks. Because
so does that like mind fuck you a little bit? Like, as you're working on it, you're like, I don't know, I'm going to put this shit on because I'm pretty sure it's wrong, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's not only Tesla, but it's similar. It's the same for newer.
Yeah. I mean, that's all high tech,
like
higher tech cars.
You know, certain modules. Oh, I put a module in. Oh, it doesn't work. You know what I mean? But in a Tesla, it's like, I put a module in. Oh, it took down the whole bus. The car will not start. Yeah,
that's very BMW architecture as well.
Yeah. So it's not as fun. I purchased a Mini Cooper.
Nice.
An older one. The classic Coopers.
Oh, the original.
Original, yeah.
Nice.
And I'll tell you, man, working with it was such a mind-blowing thing. Working with a carb.
Yeah.
Like a carb, a gas tank. That's it. The car is going to work. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to, like, it's so primitive, and it's taking you back to basics. There's no fuel injection. There's no fancy stuff. Is the car getting air? Is it getting spark? Is it getting fuel? And I do miss those days.
If it's carbureted, it may run like shit, but it'll run.
It's gonna run, yeah. You know, but whereas the BMWs, you know, German cars, it's like, dude, what is happening right now? You know, it's like
you did not pick one of the best. You picked one of the hardest European cars to buy with the RS7.
Yeah, this is true. And I'm gonna start with punishment. Charles knows. He sees the crap I post. I also bought an i8 for some reason.
Yes, that's interesting.
It looks really cool, but working on it is just like, all right, the opening the hood procedure is the most hilarious thing ever, because they don't want you to service the car, like, at all.
Yeah.
So you have to pull out these emergency tabs located in the door, within the door sills. You have to pull these emergency release tabs for the hood. You have to lift the hood, but the hood is not gas assisted. There's no shocks.
It's like 7,000 pounds.
So you open it up, and you have to jam metal rods in the holes so that the hood doesn't collapse.
So it stays up.
Well, you know, that's probably like the end user procedure. I will bet a week's paycheck that there is a BMW special tool
100%
that is supposed to be used in order to properly execute that hood open procedure. You know, that both like terrifies me, but also I am not surprised in any capacity.
But it's am I weird for? I actually kind of I say I kind of enjoy it. The only reason why I'm saying I enjoy it is because I was actually able to overcome it. If you were to ask me while I was doing it, I would probably, scream.
I don't know that there's two dudes on this planet that can relate to that shit more than like, this is the stupidest fucking crap ever. And I wouldn't do it any other way because I'm just brainwashed.
It's like a puzzle. It is so confusing and frustrating and complex and nonsensical. But once you put all the pieces to that puzzle together and everything's just the way you want it, it's like, oh wow, this was pretty good.
Yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, this makes complete sense. Nobody else would do it this way, but perfect.
But again, like, they have done that for a very specific reason. It's not just because that's what we felt like doing or because this is the easiest way or the most efficient way to do it. It is done for a very specific, deliberately intended reason. None of those were actually words, but that's okay. Like, And when you understand the German fuzzy logic, which is like just drink 17 beers and then try and think about the problem, then you'll figure it out, and that makes total sense. When you understand, though, like what the intent behind doing it was, it may be like, okay, this is a retarded way to do it still, but okay, I understand that it's done this way because, okay.
Yeah. No, it's another thing. What threw me for a loop, I think the cooling system, refill and drain and refill on my Z06, right? Or basically any car. If you're cooling slow or you drain your coolant, you open the coolant cap, you pour more coolant in, you burp the system, make sure all the air's out, and then you start the car, drive it, and as it bubbles up, there's more air out, put more coolant in, and you kind of go from there, right? I mean, forgive me, this is my ignorance, but I did it on the RS7, and it's a closed, pressurized coolant system.
Yeah, it's Volkswagen and Audi for you.
Yep.
So I had to literally create a vacuum.
Yep.
Like at first I was like, oh, I have my coolant, I'm just gonna pour it in. And I was like, you know what? Let me just not do that first, because I know
you knew better.
This seems too easy. And they were like, no, you have to buy a special tool. You got to put it on top of the coolant. You have to create a vacuum, get a separate bucket, and I'm like, what? Yeah.
And then on the even newer stuff, not only do you have to do that, usually they recommend for like an hour, you have to hold that vacuum level in the system. You also have to get the scan tool and activate all of the valves, electric valves, to make sure that coolant gets to all the all the points. I had a hybrid Jetta one time, and it was a really fucked up situation. Like, it came in for a shifting problem, and they're DSG units, but they're dual dry clutch units. They're not wet clutch like the rest of the Volkswagen world, in the US anyway. So I get this car, I'm looking at it, I'm like, shit, there's power steering fluid leaking from the transmission because the clutches are driven by power steering fluid. Right. So it got like an $8,000 transmission and a $10,000 e-machine, because that's where the coolant leak had come from, or the power steering leak had come from. So anyway, it was like a $20,000 warranty ticket, engine out, trans apart, all the stuff back together, engine in the car, get it all back together, do the like normal way to fill coolant. And I've had really good success without using the vacuum bleeder up till this point, because this would have been 2013, 2014, maybe 2015, something like that. And so get it, re-energize the whole hybrid system, drive it. It's cool. It's cool. Red hybrid warning light comes on. Car goes to about 10 miles an hour. I'm like, fuck. Okay, so nurse it back to the shop. Pull codes for like the JX1 box, which I can't remember the name of it is, but it doesn't matter. Like one of the really expensive hybrid controller errors. I'm like, shit. Okay, so I go through the test. Doesn't get me anywhere. I call tech line. He's like, what'd you do to the car? I'm like, I did all this, and like, it just started acting weird. He's like, did you follow the coolant bleed procedure? I'm like, yeah, dude, of course I followed the coolant bleed procedure. What are you talking about?
He definitely did not follow the coolant.
I definitely did not. So he goes, so this dude.
Can you just send me the procedure again real quick?
Well, he like we were on a first name basis at this point. He's like, Charles, okay, do me a favor. Just like go back to the repair manual and follow it again. And I look at the repair manual. I'm like, man, I didn't do any of this shit. I didn't do any of this stuff. But it was just like a starvation of coolant in one of those small passages that just so happens to have a sensor, and it's seeing this crazy high temperature because it's not cooled, because it's just steam. Air in there.
Yeah.
It's just steam or air, and it's like, no, fuck off. We're not playing.
Yeah.
I still remember how that felt when that light came on. I'm like, ugh!
Yeah, so in our world, we don't really bleed cooling systems that same way, that the manual usually says.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you need to, you have to go down that vacuum bleed reading. But we usually just leave the coolant cap off, run the engine, and allow it to bleed off the air. And that's usually enough to make it bleed all the cooling out. Now,
gotcha.
Obviously, you can run it, you can drive it, you have to test drive to verify it's not going to overheat and anything else like that.
Yeah, I was taking the quote unquote safe route, just in case. I just felt, after taking out some interior trim panels and seeing the 970 sensor. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do it this way, just in case. You know what I mean? Now that I know, I'll probably do it the other way. But I'm like, I know for a fact that this RS7 probably has like 19 of those valves and actuators that run coolant probably somewhere in the cabin, underneath the passenger seats, and all over the place. I'm just like, just in case, I'm going to do it that way.
Dude, Paul, do you know if those had the liquid cooled alternators?
I do not know if RS7. I don't think they have liquid cooled alternators. I think that's mostly a thing of the past at this point.
Yeah,
but
good.
Yeah, that was a problem back in the day with W8s and V10s. I think also had that.
V8s, Touareg Phaeton.
V8?
Yeah,
V8s.
V8s. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's neat.
It was
Phaeton,
dumb.
Shutter.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a reason why the Phaetons I think they were originally like 100K, right? Almost 100.
Yeah, I think the most expensive one was like 120 if you got the W12 with all the cool guy features on it.
And now you could get them for like $5,000, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just need to spend 20 to fucking get the car back on the road because it's a giant pile of shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that's the Touareg thing. You know, Touaregs are a lot like Phaetons. There are a lot of overlap between those two cars, and there's a lot of off-road enthusiasts who are gravitating towards Touaregs, which is a concern that I think a lot of people are not realizing what they're getting themselves into.
Dude, Touaregs I've heard they have mountains of torque.
They're beasts, dude. That's one of the most capable off-road vehicles of its time. I mean, it is legit a hardcore off-road vehicle, which is the dumbest thing ever because 0 people that bought them ever did that shit. It was a mall crawler, which is a thing that I learned about recently, so I'm pretty happy about that.
They pull. I think they have. Isn't there a V10? There's a V10 version, right?
There's a V10 TDI. Yeah, that thing could pull down a house, especially if you tune it.
Yeah, man, I've heard about. Actually, are those reliable? How are they?
They're not bad, but V10 TDIs are very expensive vehicles to own.
Yeah.
Because anything that breaks on them is going to be a clusterfuck.
It's all powertrain out type repairs for anything.
The engine comes out no matter what you do almost. So, turbos, oxygen sensor to engine out.
Yep.
Right.
And now, again, in true German fashion, if you have all the right tools, which you shouldn't be working on it if you don't, you can have the powertrain out in 2.5 hours. It's not hard, but that requires a $12,000 engine lift table and probably another $5,000 worth of jigs and a lift capable of getting the car positioned correctly. And it's not the worst thing ever.
It's easy. Super easy.
Yeah. Barely an inconvenience.
Yeah, but Porsche's no different. I mean, they have the same shit.
I saw the same stuff.
Yeah.
I learned very quickly what Audi service mode meant.
Oh yeah.
Like taking out the whole front end. I was
Get used to it.
It's great. It's the best thing ever.
That's the thing. I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Service position, for the average person, they think service position is fucking crazy because they're like, why do I have to take off all this shit? But once you get used to the idea of like, hey, just take off the bumper, it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
You take it off and you're like, wow, I have all this space now.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you work on a Chevrolet and you just have that space anyway and you don't have to take shit off.
That's true.
There's nothing you have to do. You can really do anything you want with the front bumper still on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's part of the deal. You signed up for the RS7. That's what you got, buddy.
I did sign up for it, and I do like the car. That's the problem. That's how Audi sucks you in. It's almost like having a cute kid.
Yeah.
Like they're a pain in the ass, but just look at them. They're adorable. You know.
Now, what made you gravitate? Obviously, I know you got that car from Sam. By the way, what made he let that car rot? Basically, is that right?
Yeah, it's that. And you should see. I had no intentions of buying. I knew the RS7 was cool, right?
Yeah, right.
I don't think I ever saw one in person. When I flew down to go visit Sam, and I saw that car in its state, it was literally in a field.
Oh Jesus!
All 4 tires were flat. I opened the rear hatch. I'm not kidding you. There was 2 tree frogs, lizards. And when I got it home, I found a snake in the car.
Yikes.
Wow.
So when I saw that car, I said, I have to have this car.
You beautiful turd, I need you in my life.
I had to have it because it's a very good looking car in person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
The pictures don't really do it much justice. I said, I have to have this car. I was like, Sam, you haven't driven this car in a year. The gas literally went bad. And when he started it, there were misfiring, there was codes everywhere. I'm like, you got to cut me a good deal on this thing. Let me take it off your hands because you're never going to drive it again. And I got it, went through the whole thing, and it's like a rescue dog in a way. You know what I mean? You have like, the puppy, it's like, okay, I'll take care of this kind of thing. But no, it was, I like it a lot. I like it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Hey, is it tuned yet?
APR stage 2.
Nice.
I love it.
High flow cats. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you need, honestly. On RS7s, tune it. And that's good enough. It's a rocket ship.
And call it a day. Yeah, I'm. But you know what though? I have a really weird thing. I love power, and when you're in the RS7 stage 2 race gas, you're kind of there. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of like, all right, this is probably as good as it's gonna get, minus going big turbos and stuff.
Yeah, which is a huge expense.
Which is massive. Some people even gone single turbo. I'm like, whoa, relax, guys.
Yeah.
And then in terms of modding, I heard the RS3s were insane.
They are insane.
They're stupid.
They're badass.
It's like so wild.
Stupid.
Yeah. 1,000 horsepower is not uncommon at all.
Yeah. People running like 9s and 8s in those things already.
Yep.
Yeah. On street cars.
Yeah. And they just came out.
With air conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is amazing. So to me, that's super impressive.
Yeah.
That's super impressive. I was thinking RS, they're just too small. I would, if it was 2-door, it'd be really cool because it's like, a hot hatch kind of thing. But I don't know. How do you like your R34, Charles?
I love it. It's I have 2 right now. I have the blue one, which is fantastic, other than it's super dirty right now.
And you have the yellow one too, right?
Yeah, so the yellow one is a Golf R. That's a 2019.
Yeah.
That's okay. Love the car. From a normal car standpoint, it's packed with technology. It's super fast. I drove the hell out of it yesterday just to burn some fuel through it. Top to bottom, love it. Of course, I wish it were faster, but I'm probably gonna mostly always say that.
You could make it faster.
Yeah, so it's at the point now where if I want to do anything truly faster, it's a turbo upgrade, which is a few $1,000s that I don't really want to spend, and then really anything beyond that, it's complete engine rebuild. So and the car's only got 12,000 miles on it. It's still under warranty. Well, it's kind of still under warranty allegedly. We'll just leave it at that. And then so I have 2 other cars that are both in the R family, which are the R32s. The blue one, which is a VR6 all-wheel drive, mostly stock car, super fun, and then the black one. I'm pointing at it, but you can't see it over there.
You pulled the motor out of that one.
Yeah, so the engine is out. It's actually all these parts sitting right over here and on this shelf back here. That is getting an HPA turbo setup. So that one should be knocking on the door. It actually should be a little bit past 500 wheel horsepower when it's done, which is, it's over double what the car came from the factory with, because they dynoed typically right around 200 to the wheels, which is pretty solid, I think, for in 2004, right? In 2004 numbers, that's pretty solid, but it should be pretty cool when it's done. It's also a rusty piece of shit.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
Whatever. It'll be fast, so that'll be fun.
I've learned very quickly that people that own Volkswagens, you own more than one Volkswagen.
Yeah, you kind of have to. Usually you need one to have parts to keep the 2. You need 2 to keep one running, or one's always broken. So that said, though, the only, we have 6 cars. 5 are Volkswagens. One's this Miata. The Miata's the only one with a check engine light on. So whenever people make check engine light cracks, like, nah, motherfuckers, my Volkswagens run fine. It's this fucking Miata that has a check engine light. Of course, I'm just too lazy to hook a scan tool up and do anything about it because I legit don't care.
Yeah.
Which is such an empowering feeling not to give a shit about a car, like scratch, cool, dent, fine.
Yeah, nice.
I drove it around all day Saturday with the engine mounts unbolted just to get cool footage of the engine bouncing up and down inside the engine bay for a video. So it's great. I love being able to do that stuff.
That's nice, man. Awesome.
Cool. Well, I think that's an episode.
Yeah, I would say so. Rich, plug some shit. How can people find the rad stuff that you're doing?
I don't even know. I have a YouTube channel. It's called Rich Rebuilds. Follow me there. And that's really it, man. I got nothing else to plug. I wish I had, I wish I had a book or something. You know, people have like,
that'd be cool.
Write a book, Rich. Write a book. It's going to be Children's Tales of EV. Mm-hmm. There you go.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. It'd be a lot cool. Like, hey guys, because you know how like when there's a person that's on a podcast, it's like, oh yeah, buy my book, guys. I have a book. Or I have a movie. Watch my movie. I'm just like, yeah, I have a YouTube channel. Check it out.
Cool.
If you're into that stuff. So yeah, man.
Well, thanks for joining us, Rich, and we will catch everybody next time.
We decided the ending of this video is just like
bye.
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 That's it.